So 10 years looking after Coca-Cola starter. Well, or as we say, what the Godfather has to do with Coca-Cola. It's actually been more than 15 years that we've been working with Coca-Cola, but the program that we are introducing to you today has been in place for about 10 years. I hope we do have some end clients here on the call as well, as it might be a bit controversial for some of our agency partners, but let's see how we go. So in my presentation today, I'm referring to the protocol and quality control consigliere. But let me tell you first what a consigliere is. So it's coming from Italy and Switzerland, where a consigliere is an advisor who works quite closely with the boss, a trusted confidant, in particular a person that can actually speak their opinion and tell the boss whether he's right or not. Let me introduce you to Cecilia, our Infotools lead consigliere, who's looking after the Coca-Cola global beverage tracker that spans over 90 markets. Cecilia is based in Argentina, so she can't make it today. She doesn't really look that intimidating, right? Well, don't judge a book by its cover. There's an old saying that says, only the best things come in small packages. Well, poison too. That's her words, by the way, not mine. She mentioned that. And have you actually considered her last name, La Greca? All Sicilian blood runs through her veins. Anyway, let me tell you more about what our consiglieres do and share some real life examples of their work with you. Here are some of the things that Cecilia and her team do. That includes everything from ensuring protocol compliance and data quality for a tracker, as I said, that goes across 90 markets, supporting those markets as a market research methodology consultant, auditing and analyzing unexplained changes or trend breaks in the data, as you will see in some of the examples I share with you, managing any changes in the local field agencies, methodologies, or technical issues. Basically, they are a centralized hub for market research best practices. Now, I'm going to show you some of our more prominent examples of these tasks. And please bear in mind that all of the examples that we show today are based on caddy data collection. And this is actually quite at large still in some of those, in a lot of those markets that we're looking after. The first example is where we spotted some drastic data changes after switching fieldwork providers. And even when the project had very strong protocol indicating how things needs to be done. With those strict rules around sampling, methodology, and questionnaires in place, the local market expected that the KPI results that they're looking after coming from both suppliers would be very similar. Now, those of you who are into quantitative research, you might think, well, we would expect some changes, and we did. But the changes were actually significant, much, much bigger than what we expected. So after very detailed revision of the fieldwork management, our team found out that the new interviews were not insisting as much as old ones when prompting brands, in particular, obviously, with open-ended questions like, which brands are you aware or which brands are you consuming? They prompted only twice versus the old provider, they prompted until no further comments were made. Hence, the number of captured mentions were much, much lower. So as a solution, we did some retraining, we had a new protocol implemented in place, and some extra QC processes as well. In this next case study, the data was showing a strong declining trend for all brands, when the sales and Nielsen data was showing the opposite. It came to the point where the tracking data has lost credibility. As the Director for Knowledge and Insights for Europe said at the time, we have lost our trust in our agency partner. So they brought us in to see what's going on. And what we find out is that once the interviewers gain expertise in their questionnaire management, they started speeding up respondents through the survey. And again, cutting half the number of responses to each question that they collected. So again, there was a big need of retraining. There was more protocol processes putting in place. However, 60% of invalid interviewers needed to be replaced at a huge cost to the agency. And of course, they lost quite a lot of the trust from their client. In this next example, again, most of you would know that any changes in a project design or execution can affect results. And I agree with you. So our clients, they changed the fieldwork from quarterly to monthly completion, already an indicator that some of the results will change. And they also changed the redistribution of the sample in terms of age composition, decreasing the 20 to 29-year-olds, which are Coke's main target group, and increasing the 30 to 39-year-olds. So when we saw those results, we weren't surprised that while they optimized the sample effectiveness, it impacted on the results. Not helped by the fact that they had a huge rotation of interviewers and fluctuations of the interviewer length. So again, we worked together with the agency to create better programs, more stability, and highlighted to both the agency and the market that any changes that they do to their sampling or to their completion will have an impact on the data. Now, this is my favorite example. The client came to us after a few months and said, hey, over 60% of our brands showed a declining trend in consumption to the previous years, and some of them were experienced double-digit declines. And at the same time, all of the sales and media data was either stable or was going up. They came to us and said, well, what's going on? Can you help us? Here, our consiglieres really had to earn their keep and dig deep. In this particular case, the devil was in the detail. Everything was looking good, but we kept asking what changed around the time that the data showed strange numbers, and we got the same answer time and time again: nothing. They had a stable research interview team, they haven't made any changes to the questionnaire, and so on and so forth. Finally, someone said, well, actually, around that time, we upgraded our collection platform to the latest release. But what happened with that upgrade is that it resulted in slightly longer loading times for every single page when the interviewers pressed the next question. And we know our interviewers, they obviously realize that the survey takes a little bit longer than they're used to. And these interviewers have then been compensating for this with fewer prompts. And it has a massive impact on the data. Now, you might think that all of these examples are obvious and these mistakes or changes shouldn't have happened. And we would fully agree with you. They shouldn't have. Yet they have, and many more have happened as well. And as you can imagine, and as we've saw before, the costs involved are huge. Not just in terms of money, but also in regards to the credibility of the project. So we have been thinking about how can we help our client, Coca-Cola, but also the agencies to prevent those, or at least find mistakes earlier so the impact will be as small as possible. For this, we worked closely with the agencies and we created a simple but effective tool to maintain long-term health of the project, keeping an eye on main KPIs and ongoing quality control auditing reporting, so to speak. So we worked closely with the field agencies to add a number of control measures in all data files and databases. Because the survey is now fully digitized, that means all of the surveys, whether it's an online survey, a CATI, or even face-to-face where they use tablets, everything is digitized. That enables us to receive passive collected control measures and data in addition to the actual survey answers. So things like length per questionnaire section, the interview IDs, the day and times when the interviews was conducted, and so on and so forth. We then look across all those measures that we look into, also things, for example, like how many brands have been measured and so on. And if anything gets significantly out of hand, the system will pick it up and will be marked for immediate attention. Now, this ongoing traffic light system allows the Coca-Cola teams to spot any issues on the fly before deviations start to affect data trends. So why is this so important to Coca-Cola and other clients? Well, as you know, data gets turned into information, gets turned into insights, and those insights drive significant decisions at the Coca-Cola company. When they decided to re-architect their brand tracker the first time about 10 years ago, that's when they decided to ensure quality at source. This to them and us was non-negotiable. Data quality is sort of like a boss, the godfather, if you will. He's not talked about a lot, but you know he's there, behind the scenes, calling the shots. In Coca-Cola's world, this boss can undermine insights' credibility and worse, lead to decisions that are based on bad data. So Coca-Cola decided it was necessary to hire a consigliere, someone who could keep an eye on the boss and be an expert in all things quality. Our consiglieres are constantly in touch with the data through the network of global agency partners that collect the data, ensuring that the godfather always knows just how important he is and, to keep him in line. Without this permanent supervision, we believe we could see quality slowly erode over time. With our consiglieres in place, we can proactively address data quality issues before they become a big problem and ensure that any key brand KPIs maintain their integrity. Now, here are 3 benefits that Coca-Cola have realized from having our consiglieres in place. The first one is all about trust. All of the Coca-Cola stakeholders trust the data 100%, and they can. This is not easy, especially when key measures come from 90+ markets across the beverage tracker. And it's not that the stakeholders can't question the data. They can, and they repeatedly do, through the interactive analytics tools that they have. And at every turn, we are prepared not to defend the data, but to instill confidence the data can be trusted. So instead of questioning the quality of the data, Coca-Cola can spend their time testing hypotheses on what is driving change, and more importantly, what they need to do as a result. So in the end, we provide them with the confidence and trust to base their strategic decisions on their data 100% 24/7. Integration is another big one. How valuable is the brand tracking data? Alone, it is of course worth the investment, but when combined with other data sources, there is potential to realize exponential returns. And as an industry, we have been saying this for years. So looking at brand tracking data, for example, in context with other key sources of information has improved Coca-Cola's ability to connect dots and extract more value than they ever could by looking at brand tracking data alone. And the final one for them is speed. Because Coca-Cola disaggregated their research supply chain, the consigliere has played a vital role in helping stitching things together and in the end, making them more agile. It's really hard coordinating across 90 countries and more than 75 agencies. It was necessary to iron out process flows, and the consigliere had to onboard agencies so they could work effectively within Coke's compliance and quality framework. But the investment has and continues to pay off for them. We know when anyone pulls data from our database for analysis, it's right. And there are times, and there are quite often, that the Coca-Cola or the Global Insights team have been requested by the Coke CEO or any other C-suite member to, within hours, run a global analysis across their top 32 markets. This is not only doable, but it's done on a regular basis, and the speed at which they can execute and deliver is a result of having the consigliere in place. Now, investing in a full-time protocol consigliere might seem as over the top and completely unnecessary. After all, the agency doing fieldwork is ultimately accountable, right? Well, yes, fieldwork agencies are accountable. However, we are responsible for ensuring the right mechanisms are in place to hold and keep them accountable. In Coca-Cola's case, they wanted an independent and objective custodian of the data who could work in partnership with them and other agency partners to ensure they get the data right every time. So even if this model that Coke adopted is not right for you, setting up an ongoing traffic light system that checks key field and research measures can be a cost-effective way of keeping an eye on your tracker. It will save you time and money in the long run by ensuring that any issues are uncovered in as close to real time as possible, and before deviations start to affect data trends and cost more money to fix, and even worse, might negatively impact on the perception of your insights department in your organization. So you don't think it applies to you? Well, think again, because we know it happens not just to Coca-Cola. So ask yourself the following questions. How satisfied are you with the data quality, consistency, and integrity from your projects? Have you ever experienced data fluctuations which cannot be explained? Have you ever experienced differences between claimed and actual behavior which cannot be explained? Are you satisfied with the visibility you have on how data quality is managed? Do you wish you had an independent view of your fieldwork and data quality? Well, if you think about those answers to those questions, you might want to have a consigliere for your projects in place as well. And that's what we think the Godfather has to do with Coca-Cola. Grazie.